cars on the grid now. The red Ferrari of Schumacher, a bit of work to do. 1 point the difference in the championship.
1 point in the Drivers' Championship, and I believe about 12 in the Constructors' Championship. I think Williams will wrap up the Constructors' Championship, I have no doubt about that, but certainly this is a very important race for both Schumacher and Villeneuve. Start here will be interesting because Schumacher's always quick off the line. Villeneuve's last 2 starts haven't been the way he would like, and Häkkänen's not too untidy off the line most times. Yeah, Coulthard seems to be the boy that's perfected the starts, but this circuit, like a lot of modern circuits, is just a series of slow corners after slow corners. It isn't the easiest place in the world to pass, and as I said earlier on, they're using these curbs quite substantially. So, you know, normally the only good thing about a circuit, which is obviously difficult to pass, is it does tend to bunch the cars up and make for a closer race. Big crowd in attendance. Oh, unbelievable. I mean, there'll be well in excess of 120, 130,000 people there. I mean, next to the Italians, I suppose the Germans are the most enthusiastic, particularly now even that, you know, Schumacher's up there. I'd like to have the franchise for the Red Sloppy Joes. There's a few of those in the audience. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ferrari now, apparently, that's their second biggest market, Germany, since Schumacher A went to Ferrari and B started winning races, so enormously popular. Fisichella, another very important outing for him as well. Well, the Jordans have finished in the points just about every Grand Prix in the latter half of this season, and there's no reason to suggest they won't do likewise tonight. But very much the coming man, Fisichella, and with this new director now of Benetton, and hopefully that they get their act together, he should be a real goer next year. Take your mind back to your first pole position, the feelings that Häkkinen would be experiencing now on this lap. Well, funnily enough, it's much better to be on the front row because irrespective of what happens, you're not going to get mixed up in somebody else's accident. If you do a slightly less than perfect start, you're already at the front anyway. And if you do a good start, you don't have to worry about passing anybody. So it's probably the most relaxing place to be. And today, some historical value. It's 17 years to the day that you won your World Championship. Really? It is. I thought it was only about 5 or 6 years. 17 years to the day. All right, well, as they start to bunch up now, 67 laps of here. The race distance is 305 kilometres in length. So we'll take you over as we look at Villeneuve sitting on the line now to the voice of Formula One. Of course, Murray Walker and his sidekick, Martin Brundle.
Villeneuve could throw the championship away, so they have to park in the right place.
So Mika Häkkinen, roughly in the centre of your screen, on the left-hand side of the grid as he sits in it. Then Jacques Villeneuve, behind him, Frentzen and Fisichella. Go! Good start, and a wonderful start again by David Coulthard, just as it was last year. Mika Häkkinen leads, and look at Coulthard on the left. Is he coming through into second position? Indeed he is, I think, as he goes through on the inside. And that's a Jordan off with Eddie Jordan, with Eddie Irvine. So a collision there. That's the Minardi spinning out in the background. I can't see whether it's Fisichella or Schumacher, but whoever it is, he's out of the race.
I think both Jordans are in there, Murray. There's one in the gravel trap, and another one very much slowed down too. So
yeah, there's Schumacher. There's Schumacher. So Ralf Schumacher out of the race. Question mark over Fisichella. But the Luxembourg Grand Prix on this German circuit here, the great Nürburgring, is just a few hundred yards away, is very much on, and Mika Häkkinen is leading. David Coulthard is in second place. This is quite incredible. David Coulthard has made another one of his sensational rocket starts, as he did last year. From 6th on the grid, and he started there last year, he's come up into second place. And behind him is Jacques Villeneuve. Behind Villeneuve is Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart. Well, we certainly didn't expect this.
Well, I think Michael Schumacher had a pretty big trip across the gravel trap too, so he's a long way down. That's allowed the Stewarts really up into the action, as is Jean Alesi. So an incredible start from Coulthard, a good start from Häkkinen. Coulthard made it stick up the inside, and then, as we talked about earlier, there really is only space for one car at a time through that first section, and you have to give everybody room. And we saw the Jordan going up into the air. I'm hoping we're going to see a replay very soon if the German director will give us a replay so we can see exactly what went on. But Michael Schumacher, I'm sure, had to take avoiding action, and across the gravel, his car shouldn't be damaged, but it's put him way back down in 10th place.
Yeah, and ahead of him, Johnny Herbert, Pedro Diniz, Damon Hill, Magnussen, Alesi, Rubens Barrichello, Jacques Villeneuve, David Coulthard and Hakkinen. And of course, this is very good as far as Jacques Villeneuve is concerned. He may have dropped from second on the grid to third in the race behind the two McLarens, but he's 7 places ahead of Michael Schumacher, who was 8 seconds down on the leader at the end of the first lap. Michael Schumacher has got a gigantic mountain to climb. We're on lap 2 now, and the two McLarens, which have been looking so strong here, are in the lead as Alesi goes through, and Magnussen is in 6th position. So both the Stewart Fords on their Bridgestone tyres are in the top 6 and in the points at the moment, but there's a long, long way in this race to go. Villeneuve is 3rd. So there is Barrichello, there is Alesi, behind him is Magnussen. Damon Hill is in 7th position, followed by Pedro Diniz. Both the arrows well up, 7th and 8th. Replay.
Well, here we go. Look, you can see Coulthard streaking through the middle there. Then he moves over to the right. We think Michael Schumacher may be coming in the pits, actually. Coulthard there up into 2nd place. Hakkinen well out by himself. Which driver is that there? It's Michael Schumacher.
It's Schumacher,
it is Michael
retiring.
Schumacher.
Well,
World Championship leader out of the race. Obviously, he had some contact in that first corner, and the car must be damaged somewhere.
a terrible blow for Schumacher and Ferrari. Wonderful news for Williams, and there is Schumacher bouncing his way across the chicane.
That's later. That's not the start at all, Murray. That's the chicane much later in the lap. Look, and he's come back across those wicked curbs we've been talking about all weekend, and clearly he's damaged the underneath of the car or the suspension in some way.
Now, this is looking very good from the Williams and Villeneuve point of view in terms of the World Championship, because Villeneuve, who's now the fastest man on the track, he's just gone round in 1:21.89, compared with the lap record 1:21.3. Katayama is out of the race. The two McLarens are in front of Villeneuve. Barrichello is still in 4th position. 5th is Jean Alesi, followed by Magnussen. Damon Hill and Diniz are still 7th and 8th. Michael Schumacher out of the race. And both the Jordans out at the start. Ralf Schumacher, terrible day for the Schumacher family on their home track. Ralf Schumacher out at the start. Michael Schumacher out on the first lap.
Well, once again, we're going to see that replay of the start. It was interrupted to show us Michael Schumacher's car retiring from this race. But here they go into the corner. Great start from Hakkinen. You can see the two Williams side by side. Coulthard makes it stick up the out in the inside. Now look, Michael Schumacher, it's the two Jordans that got together and pushed him into Michael Schumacher. So the two Jordans tripping over each other on the apex of turn 1, and absolute chaos behind. Another car going across the gravel. There we go. Wow, that was dangerous.
Isn't that ironic? If that's Ralf Schumacher's car, he's taking his brother out and possibly destroying his World Championship chances. Michael Schumacher on the replay, rejoins the circuit. Here's another one.
Yeah, there we go. The Jordan flying up in the air. Schumacher getting a face full of dirt for good measure. And now they're all going across the gravel trap. That was a nasty first corner incident, and well, Michael Schumacher, that rear wheel of his brother's car looked extremely close to his head, didn't it?
Ralf Schumacher talking to Ian Phillips, who has a quizzical look on his face. If I read it, it would be not very clever, Ralph, because the worst thing you can possibly do is to collide with your teammate. I'm not ascribing any blame, because we need to look at a replay again very carefully indeed to try to decide where that problem arose. But wherever it arose, it took both the Jordans out and Michael Schumacher. So now, at minimum, if Villeneuve keeps going the way he is, he's on 4 World Championship points. We're only on lap 5 at the present moment in this 67-lap race. But Villeneuve, if he can keep going, looks like getting 4 World Championship points. That would make him 3 ahead of Michael Schumacher, who is not going to score today.
James is in the pits with Michael Schumacher.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely unbelievable, Martin. I arrived just as Michael walked out, and I said, can I have a quick word? He looked straight through me, walked straight to the truck. He could not believe what has just happened to him. I'm now standing right by Michael's car. It's covered in dirt, and the front suspension wishbones are completely buckled. Just like Damon Hill's word. Do you remember when Michael hit him in Adelaide in '94? That's what it looks like down here. Michael just cannot believe what's just happened to him.
Well, if it had been through a crusher, it couldn't be worse for Michael Schumacher, and it's now a wonderful front run for the two McLarens. Mika Häkkinen leading. I can't get over that start of David Coulthard's. He said in the past, I always concentrate on the start because you can make up 2 or 3 places if you get it right, whereas it's very, very difficult to do that in race conditions on almost any circuit these days because it is so difficult to get by. That's exactly what he did. He shot up from 6th on the grid, took advantage of the problems ahead of him, past Schumacher, past Fisichella, past Heinz-Harald Frentzen, past Jacques Villeneuve. What about that for a list of names to get by at the start? Coulthard is 2nd.
Damon Hill is up to 7th, and it's just behind him, but a few rumblings in the paddock. I can't really throw any more light on it. A few rumblings about a traction control system that McLaren might be running on that. I don't know whether it's people spreading nasty rumours because they're going so well, or if there's any kind of truth behind it. But meanwhile, Häkkinen, the fastest man on the track, on a 1:20.6 on the last lap, and Coulthard and Villeneuve very much just keeping their distance.
And that 1:20.6 is already a lap record. We're getting up towards 1/11th distance in this 67-lap race. The previous lap record was held by Damon Hill, 1:21.3, and now we've got Häkkinen going round in 1:20.4. Häkkinen leads, Coulthard 2nd, Villeneuve 3rd, Barrichello is 4th, Alesi is 5th, and Magnussen is 6th. Mika Häkkinen. Now, if you could look back 2.8 seconds in terms of distance, if you follow me, you would see David Coulthard. Now, let's ride with Mika Häkkinen.
On board now, coming down to turn 1. He'll bring it over to the left-hand side of the track. It's a little bit bumpy on the way in, and you really have to keep up against the curb on the way into that corner. You can see there Coulthard and Villeneuve very much equidistant behind him, and that's Barrichello under pressure from Jean Alesi. Behind them, there's Magnussen under pressure from Damon Hill, and then Diniz, Johnny Herbert. Really, the midfield have ended up being the front runners of this race just because of that first lap incident. I'm not really sure how Frentzen ended up way back in 12th position when really he was going into turn 1 in 3rd position. I didn't see his escapade because behind him all hell broke loose.
Yeah, let's just take a look at the positions on lap 8. Häkkinen is leading by an incredible 3.4 seconds from his teammate David Coulthard, who is 2 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, who is 5 seconds ahead of Barrichello in the Stewart, the top the Bridgestone runner. All the others are on Goodyears. Alesi is 5th. There's a traffic jam behind Magnussen, who is 6th. Damon Hill is 7th, Diniz is 8th, Johnny Herbert is in 9th position, Olivier Panis is in 10th place. The top two, to complete the dozen, Irvine is 11th, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams down in 12th place. Lap 9 at the Nürburgring. There is the leader, Mika Häkkinen. He is out on his own, but David Coulthard is also well ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, and there is news from Louise Goodman with Eddie Jordan.
Eddie, you've just been in the back of the truck having a chat with Giancarlo. What did he have to say?
Well, he had a bad start. He knew that. He said he'd had a problem with the warm-up, with the clutch, and obviously with Ralph having such a fantastic start, there's only so much space that all these cars can go through at the end of the day, and there was just too many cars.
Got to be your worst nightmare when both your drivers hit each other.
We've had this in Argentina at the beginning of the season, and now we're getting close to the end of the season. We have a reoccurrence, and obviously we have to have a chat. This is a much more different situation where at the start of the race into the first corner, you're always going to have a certain amount of confusion and a lot of people charging on various different times, different fuel loads, because everyone is making different strategies. So everyone trying to make up where they lost out in qualifying, so to speak, and inevitably you're going to have these problems. Sadly, 2 of my cars are involved in it.
Bad luck.
Thank you.
Well, an amazingly relaxed and philosophical Eddie Jordan, who's seen both his cars go out at the beginning of the race. But now we're on lap 10 in the 67-lap race. Mika Häkkinen leading, Coulthard second, 5 seconds between them. Mika Häkkinen looking tremendously strong. Jacques Villeneuve third, not making any impression on Coulthard. Barrichello is fourth in the Stewart, wonderful. Alesi is fifth, Magnussen is sixth in the second Stewart. Damon Hill and Pedro Diniz in the two Arrows are just out of the points, 7th and 8th, ahead of Johnny Herbert and Olivier Panis.
Well, Mika Häkkinen in a class of his own, as he has been all weekend, and especially this morning's warm-up, over a second a lap faster than anybody else on the racetrack on the last lap. He's really, well, they're not going to see him for dust if he carries on at this rate. So really the race is now between Coulthard, who's coming slightly under pressure from Villeneuve. He's homing in on him 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap. Eddie, of course, Eddie Jordan, very, very upset about his two cars. And imagine the cost when they get home and have to replace all of those wishbones, engine covers, uprights, brakes, or whatever was damaged. Could easily cost him 100,000, 150,000 pounds for good measure.
Coulthard and Villeneuve second and third, and of course if McLaren keep on going the way they are going, they're going to get 16 points in the Constructors' Championship, and that would move them past Benetton on the form of Alesi and Berger at the present moment. Jean Alesi is in 5th place on 2 World Championship points. Gerhard Berger is down in 11th place, and that is Olivier Panis being challenged by Gerhard Berger.
Frentzen making his way through the field. I'm really not sure how he ended up back down there. If we get another replay of the start, I'll have a good look, but he ended up back in 12th place. He's now taken 11th place. That was from Panis, from Olivier Panis, who was hobbling around the paddock. I was surprised how difficult it was. You know, he's back after breaking his legs in Canada back in June, and I was really surprised at the difficulty which Olivier was having just walking through the paddock. But Frentzen putting a good move there to move up to, well, what is still a very lowly 11th position.
Next target for him is Gerhard Berger, who is in 10th position, just about a second ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But you can see it's very, very close on the track, except for Mika Häkkinen, whose form is quite amazing. He's now 6.2 seconds ahead. This man who nearly won the British Grand Prix this year, who was leading in Austria when his engine let go last Sunday, he's come so close to victory so many times. I mean, Mika Häkkinen has been in second position many times, but never the win. Is he going to come today? Well, we'll know in 56 laps' time. 1:19.9
for Mika Häkkinen. He is just running and hiding. 19.9, that's a very fast lap, Murray, for the beginning of a Grand Prix. Remember, he's got something like 80 kilos of fuel on board that car, and the car itself weighs only just over 500 kilos.
No, here they come towards us now. Oh, no, they don't anymore, because we're looking at Mika Häkkinen as he comes round the hairpin, turn 5, climbs up towards the 130-mile-an-hour left-hander and on towards, eventually, the chicane at the end of the lap. Now, look back, and you would have seen David Coulthard coming over the crest as we see Magnussen and coming towards us now. Here is the Stewart, followed by Damon Hill, followed by Pedro Diniz. Now, there is the white car is Jan Magnussen. He's in 6th position. Behind him is Damon Hill. Then it's Pedro Diniz. Behind Diniz is Johnny Herbert. They're coming towards us now. Look for the red-topped helmet. That's Johnny Herbert in the Sauber, and he is in 9th position as they go round the right-left flick towards the highest point of the circuit. And now continuing to climb. And in the background is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, still in 11th position behind Gerhard Berger. There is the Austrian who had such a terrible time at the Spielberg circuit last Sunday. And he's now going to have to work very hard. First of all, to try and get past Johnny Herbert on the left. And secondly, to keep back Heinz-Harald Frentzen. It's not a particularly brilliant day for Williams. It's a terrible day for Ferrari. Admittedly, Villeneuve is in 3rd position. But like you, Martin, I'm completely mystified about how Heinz-Harald Frentzen came to be in 11th position. There is no doubt in my mind, incidentally, that Magnussen is holding people up. If they can only get past him, they might be able to pull away, particularly Frentzen when he gets there. But he's driving a good race.
Yes, David's not exactly climbing all over the gearbox of Magnussen, though, as you can see there, Murray. So it's pretty much a Bridgestone race going on there from Barrichello in fourth, but Magnussen, Hill, Dinitz, they're very much having their own race on the Bridgestone tyres, and looked as if they have very similar lap time. Johnny Herbert looking a bit frustrated. They're diving around behind, and soon they're going to be holding Frentzen up. You can only assume that they'll be stopping Frentzen sooner rather than later for whatever pit stop strategy he's on, because clearly his car is much faster than the 122s that he's doing there, stuck in that pack, because his teammate is down there in the 120.4, and he's been matching his teammate all weekend. But Mika Hakkinen, a new fastest lap, a new lap record, 1 minute 19.8.
We're now on lap 14 in this 67-lap race. Who's doing well, who's not doing so well? Well, McLaren are doing fantastically well, first and second. Williams, I would say, middling. There is Jacques Villeneuve in third position, seemingly, I won't say content to stay there, because obviously he wants to get more points, but he'll know that Michael Schumacher is out of the race. Now, Stewart there are doing fantastically well, as are Ford, who've had so many problems with their V10 engine that they're patiently working away at. Jan Magnussen is in sixth position. Barrichello and Alesi that you're looking at are fifth and sixth. There is Jean Alesi. He started well down the grid in 10th position. He's made places and he's challenging. He's all over Barrichello now.
Barrichello driving very defensively. You saw him lock his brakes going into the Dunlop hairpin. He's on the ragged edge, and he's got Jean Alesi bearing down on him now.
And it was Rubens Barrichello, remember, Martin, who was pressured so much by Michael Schumacher last Sunday in Austria that he flew off the circuit.
Yes, he did, didn't he? He dropped the ball. He was looking in his mirrors at Michael Schumacher instead of where he should have been going himself. But what tends to happen in this situation, when a guy is clearly quicker than you, behind you, you start turning in a bit too early to the corners, and you brake a little bit earlier than you really should. You get a defensive state of mind, and it's just at this time you should just free it all up and let the car have its head and drive off. But you start driving on your mirrors instead of driving on your field of vision ahead.
They're both looking for points, of course, but especially Jean Alesi, who's fifth in the championship. He was running third until he had some recent problems and dropped in those 2 places behind David Coulthard. And he's really pushing Rubens Barrichello, and the young Brazilian, and he is a very young Brazilian because he's only 25 years old, is driving like a veteran.
But it would appear that Frentzen may have, remember they went into the first corner, the 2 Williams side by side, with David Coulthard slicing up the inside. It would appear that Frentzen lost out in that and took a big bite of the curb and lost an awful lot of momentum on the way out. So that's how Frentzen ended up reversing himself down the field.
Well, you're inevitably going to change your fortunes in Formula One, and funnily enough, I was thinking only the other day that Michael Schumacher had only had 2 retirements so far, and this is the 15th race of the year, and that he was due another one. I didn't expect it to happen as quickly as this, or as hard an effect on his World Championship as it's having. And James Allen, news from the pits?
Yeah, standing outside this Ferrari truck, Michael Schumacher sitting in there quietly smouldering, fuming away. If they lifted off the skylight, they'd probably think they'd elected a new pope. There's so much going on in there. Ralf Schumacher just walked past me, went straight up the stairs. He's going in there to apologise to his brother. He knows what he's done today. Big shame.
Yeah, well, brotherly love and all the rest of it, but it'll be wearing a bit thin in that Ferrari motorhome. Ralf Schumacher has the reputation of being a bit of a wild man, no less a man than Martin Brundle has said to me that Michael thinks that Ralf thinks he's Michael, and he certainly isn't.
Yes, but I can't help but thinking Michael's very lucky not to be wearing the left rear Goodyear of that Flying Jordan, so he's got that to thank somebody for today, because that could have been very, very nice. It's very unusual to see. I've seen a lot of Formula One cars. I've even seen a Marshall flying through my cockpit in Japan, but I've never seen a Formula One car coming at you from that kind of angle. That could have been very, very dangerous.
Yeah. Welcome back. Well, the first of the pit stops just happened, and we sort of Sauber in and out in 8.2 seconds. Wasn't a bad stop at all.
Can you turn
And we'll bring you up to date with the places that are there: Hakkinen, Coulthard, Villeneuve, Barrichello and Lacey Magnussen. Jonesy, it's been a year where we've seen a lot of surprises. No surprise that Hakkinen's going quickly, but this quickly?
Well, the sort of rumour in the paddock at the moment is that the Mercedes is probably the most powerful engine out there, and they've been working away quietly. I mean, this is probably Mark 32. It's in the car at the moment. But, oh dear, is that Harness or Nakano? Oh, well. There's our friend that truly should be in that cockpit. But, yeah, the Mercedes seems to be the most powerful engine out there at the moment. And, of course, the fact that it's at the Nürburgring in Germany probably helps a little bit as well.
Also, that Prost going out there, remember that both Prost blew up the last race at almost the same time.
Yeah, well, let's hope Harness doesn't suffer the same fate in this race.
Back to Murray.
On this year's engine, bearing in mind that they are moving to the Jordan team next year.
Well, somebody else said that on ITV, and I got the blame for it because they came to see me and said, what are you talking about?
It wasn't me.
I don't know who it was, but it wasn't me. But I can't imagine for one moment they would dream of doing something like that.
Lap 18, Johnny Herbert has been in to make the first pit stop. Shinji Nakano has had a problem, and we hear that Ralf Schumacher has been required to appear in front of the stewards to explain his actions at the beginning of the race, which took his brother Michael out. But we're riding with Jacques Villeneuve now, and up the road, some 2.3 seconds ahead of him, is David Coulthard, who is 11 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen. Now, there is Coulthard, there is Villeneuve, and in fourth place, and the supporters of the Stewart team, and I admit to being one of them, will be keeping their fingers crossed. It's their first season in Formula One with their Alan Jenkins designed car. They've done a magnificent job. They've had a lot of problems, engine problems too particularly, but now their cars are in 4th and 6th places. They were doing extremely well in Austria. They're getting stronger and stronger race by race, and they deserve some points finishes here. They've only had one. Rubens Barrichello, that magnificent second at Monaco. Back with Villeneuve.
It takes a lot. It takes 100 miles an hour through the apex of this corner. You can see as he got on the power, he had to do a slight correction. It's just an instinctive move. You don't think, oh, the back of the car's sliding, I better put some steering wheel in, otherwise you're heading on your way to the scene of the accident. It's a truly instinctive thing. As you feel you're bolted to that car with 6 seat belts, you're part of it, and you saw the car move there, and Villeneuve instantaneously putting some correction in, some dust coming out from underneath Hakkinen's car there. I can only hope that that was from we're into Coulthard now, but I can only hope that was just dust on the racetrack that Mika Hakkinen passed over. It's pretty much status quo between Villeneuve and Coulthard. Villeneuve just beginning to make a charge, now lapping at the same pace as Hakkinen, 1:20.2. You just sense that Mika's taking a bit of a breather because he's got an 11.5-second lead. No point in making a silly error, but at the same time, he's got to keep his mind on every braking point, on every apex, and especially that last nasty chicane, because as we've already seen, Michael Schumacher's taken himself out of the race, and many other cars have been damaged there. Jos Verstappen managed to get his Tyrrell a full metre in the air off of those curbs. That's how dangerous they are. Now, the Benetton boys ready for a stop.
Now, this is the way the race is running. Mika Hakkinen's out on his own. Coulthard is fighting against Villeneuve for 2nd place. Barrichello and Lacey are fighting for 4th position. Jan Magnussen in 6th place, the second of the 2 Stewart Fords in the points, is just ahead of Damon Hill, followed by Gerhard Berger, who's got ahead of Pedro Diniz and moved up into 8th position. And 10th place now is still Frentzen. He's not making any headway on Diniz.
Yes, well, Berger homing in on Hill. The reason Berger passed Diniz was he out-fumbled himself, Pedro out-fumbled himself on the curbs at the last chicane, and we saw Gerhard having a good run at him in the background, then down the pit straight, and that's enabled Gerhard to move up onto the gearbox of Damon, and you can see Frentzen tucked up there behind Diniz, as you rightly say, way back in 10th place. Lacey into the pits. He's clearly on a 2-stop strategy, and even then it's quite an early stop, so they obviously felt that maybe Lacey was tucked up behind Barrichello, and he would be best served by coming in, getting some fresh boots and a little drink of fuel. And hopefully, if he can look at the queue of traffic he's going to see when he comes out of the end of the pit lane. 120 k's down the pit lane here. The drivers were campaigning for just 80 kilometers per hour. They feel it's very narrow, very dangerous, but the organisers wouldn't play ball, so it's stuck at 120 k's, 75 miles an hour. So Lacey rejoining. Now he needs to charge to get himself out in front of Barrichello at the next stop.
And we're on lap 21 out of 67 with the magnificent Mika Häkkinen now nearly 12 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. He's got into a wonderful rhythm. He's going lap after lap quicker than his teammate, and therefore quicker than anybody else, of course. Jacques Villeneuve still in third position. And there is Gerhard Berger in the Benetton. Now he's right behind Damon Hill in the Arrows. Berger is looking for a points position. So is Damon Hill.
There's the move. That's Frentzen on Denitz. Frentzen going through for 9th place on Pedro Denitz. A nice clean manoeuvre there, outbreaking him into the chicane. So Pedro on the defensive yet again now with Panis up behind him, and that's giving Frentzen some space, and Gerhard Berger comes in for his first stop.
From 7th position. Now he was behind Damon Hill. It's a good move, this. They'll be able to change his tyres and wheels, and out he goes. No.
He took off too early there. The lollipop was very much in place. Sometimes the guy gets ready to lift it, and you read that as he's beginning to take it away. I've done that myself. You really have to wait for that lollipop to disappear out of view, and Gerhard trying to pull away with the refueler, still doing his job.
And he joined behind Mika Salo in the Tyrrell, who's in 14th position. And here coming towards us is Verstappen, chased by Johnny Herbert. Verstappen in 15th position, and Johnny Herbert, of course, who's been into the pits, is down into 6th position. Now, here's news. You saw Michael Schumacher exiting the garage and hitting the rear jack held by a Tyrrell mechanic. It was Phil Kant, and he's okay, but he's bruised his shoulder. So if anybody knew that it was him, yes, you've got something to worry about. He's bruised his shoulder, but thankfully it is nothing worse than that, and it could have been very nasty indeed. Lap 23, race leader, Mika Häkkinen, McLaren Mercedes. Well, McLaren have been in the wilderness for a long, long time since the death of Ayrton Senna, who won their last race for them in 1993, before David Coulthard won in Australia, and then again in Italy this year. But they really are looking good at the moment, not only for a first place, a third win of the year, but also their first 1-2 for a very, very long time.
Fastest man on the track that time round was Frentzen. Now he's got some space in front of him. You saw him taking Denitz. And did I see somebody locking wheel or blowing an engine up in the distance then as we cut away to this pit stop? And Jean Alesi also very quick on those new tyres. Salo there, he's clearly also on a two-stop strategy.
It's Irvine.
Yes, I thought I saw something in the distance. Clearly, Eddie Irvine, what a terrible day for Ferrari. It's just not worked at all, has it? They're going home with 0 points.
Well, we've been used to this in the past. I mean, a couple of years ago, Ferrari had double retirements, 3 or 4 races in succession. But then last year, they started getting their act together. This year, they've been leading the championship, both championships, the constructors and the drivers, as you watch Eddie Irvine getting out of the car.
Funny shape on the back of his crash helmet there is to help the airbox pressure. The air intake for the engine is just above his head, and it keeps a smoother airflow and a stronger pressure in the airbox to give him more power. But David Coulthard's suddenly getting on with it. He's in the 19s now, 1 minute 19.9, just a 10th off of the fastest lap of the race. So David reacting to the pressure that Jacques Villeneuve was gently applying to him.
And that's Gianni Morbidelli in the Sauber Petronas. 11th position he was in, and the top 10 now on lap 25, with the pit stops coming thick and fast soon. Not yet. We've had Lacey in as the first top runner. and he is now in 10th position. But the top 10 at the moment are still Hakkinen leading Coulthard by an ever-increasing margin, which is now 10 seconds. The two McLaren Mercedes up front. Villeneuve is 3 seconds behind Villeneuve, and I quickly interrupt myself to pass you over to James Allen.
Murray, I just went up to Jean Todt and I said, have you got any reason for retirement for Eddie? He looked at me and he said, engine. I said, it's not been a good day today, has it? And he gave me a Gallic shrug. It certainly hasn't been a good day for the Ferrari team.
You're a very brave man, James Allen. I wouldn't be making any remarks like that to Jean Todt.
Well, here's an interesting moment for Mika. He's leading a race comfortably and coming up to lap some cars. So this is new territory for him to a large extent, and be interesting to see just how decisive he's going to be. He should have the blue flags waving. Yes, that car's pulled over well for him. That would be Morbidelli getting out of the way. Mika seizing the opportunity nicely.
Lap 25, retirements so far. Out of the race at the beginning, of course, went Ralf Schumacher and Gianni Morbidelli, followed by Ukio Katayama and Tasso Marquez. So both the Jordans and both the Minardis out. Now both the Ferraris out, with Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine, and one of the Prost cars, Shinji Nakano, where on lap 26 there are 15 of the 22 starters still in the race. And everybody in Germany, everybody at Mercedes, everybody at McLaren, and a lot of people in Finland and Scotland will be keeping their fingers crossed that things stay the same. Mika Hakkinen leading, David Coulthard second. There is the third position man, Jacques Villeneuve, but he's 2.7 seconds behind Coulthard, as into the right-hander goes Rubens Barrichello, out on his own in 4th position.
Well, I think Lacey Berger and the other Goodyear runners who have stopped twice, including the Saubers, are going to be very disappointed, because I'm pretty certain that these Bridgestone runners, you can see Hill there and the two Stewart Fords, I think they're on one-stop strategy, so they're going to find them still ahead of them very much later in the race.
Look at Frentzen.
Frentzen screaming up behind Damon Hill now.
Yeah, we're with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's now in 6th position as a result of those stops from Lacey and Berger, and he's closing up on Damon Hill, who is now in the points. Both the Stewarts are in the top 5. Magnussen is 5th. Barrichello is in 6th position. They'll be praying for reliability. Magnussen had an engine go again in the biggest possible way in practicing here. But as I've said before, if you do your development in public, you've just got to be prepared for that sort of thing to happen. And Ford and Cosworth bravely are. They've got a completely new engine coming out for the Stewart team next year, and they'll be building all the lessons that they're learning this year into that engine. But now we ride with the Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen on the left. He's got in front of him Damon Hill. In front of Damon Hill, the white car is Jan Magnussen. And hats off to the young Dane, who's had a very, very torrid beginning of the season. 10 failures to finish. He ran 4th in Austria, where he really got his act together. His position in the Stewart team was in jeopardy. I believe, although I'm not sure, that he's going to have his contract renewed from next year, because he's going extremely well and getting better all the time.
Well, Williams mechanics out in the pit lane, getting ready for a stop. We don't know which driver. Could well be Frentzen to get him out of this queue that is in here behind the two Bridgestone boys, behind Magnussen and Hill. Could well be Frentzen, because it seems as Mika Hakkinen sets another new fastest lap, it seems an odd time if they're stopping Villeneuve. It's neither one-stop territory nor two-stop territory. So really you'd have expected them in on 22 or 23 for two-stoppers, and one-stoppers something like 32, 33. So they may be doing a bit of strategic pit stopping there with Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Yeah, we've had some very strange stopping patterns this year, with people staying out very late. For instance, Mika Hakkinen in Austria last weekend was going to be coming in on the 45th lap for his sole stop.
Well, Frentzen didn't come in. The tyres it's Villeneuve coming in, so they I wonder if they'll put enough fuel in to get that car to the end of the race. Some way to go yet. So stopping Villeneuve on lap 27.
Well, Hill is swarming all over the back of Magnussen's Stewart. He's looking for a way past. He's in the points already, Damon Hill, and sure enough, into the pits comes race leader Mika Häkkinen. Now, this is lap 28. Lap 28, Mika Häkkinen coming in. He's got a massive lead of 12 seconds.
Okay, you can see the arrow pointing him in. There's about 10 metres before his box. He can see his mechanics all in black. They form a nice garage for you. Keep the throttle stable. Don't rock the car when it's on its jack. Wait for the lollipop. Have first gear ready. What a fantastic stop from the McLaren team. Again, James.
Well, now, as you say, Martin, let's look at how long the fuel hose is on for, because it's going to be more than about 100 kilos of fuel to go in to get him through the end. Perhaps about 95, in fact. Interestingly enough, 8.8. I think he might have to stop again. We'll have to check on that. But interestingly, that was a very, very hasty decision by the McLaren team. Again, Ron Dennis reacting to the fact that Villeneuve was coming into the pits. He very quickly brought the mechanics out because they were not ready before.
And Coulthard is in the lead, of course. Mika Häkkinen came in. Coulthard took the lead. Villeneuve came in behind Mika Häkkinen. Now we've got to wait for things to settle down a bit, see how they are on the track, see how the times are, and work out whether there's going to be any other pit stops or not. But there is the new race leader, David Coulthard, who has already won 2 Grand Prix this year for McLaren. He won 1 in the past for Williams, with whom he started his Formula 1 career, and he's now leading at the Nürburgring in the Luxembourg Grand Prix on his 29th lap out of 67. And of course, he is yet to come in. And the time that his pit stop takes in comparison with that of Mika Häkkinen will decide whether, when Coulthard comes back onto the track, he's in the lead or back in second place, or even in third position if he has a bad stop in comparison with that of Jacques Villeneuve. So it's a lap 30 out of 67.
Well, I think you have to expect Häkkinen to pit again. Best part of 40 laps to go. Very short stop, just 6.9 seconds, as you saw. And I don't think they would have got enough fuel in that time to get him to the end of the race. And Villeneuve, I would imagine, is in the same boat. David Coulthard, I know he could decide on 1 stop or 2 stop as he got into the race. So if he can stretch that to 1 stop, he's sitting pretty at the moment. But Häkkinen's pace will be very fast now. He's on fresh tyres.
And Rubens Barrichello is right up with Jacques Villeneuve, who is in third place still. It's the leaders that have changed. Coulthard has taken over from Häkkinen. Here coming towards us is Magnussen 5th, Damon Hill 6th, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 7th place, as the Stewart, the Arrows and the Williams negotiate the corner, accelerate away down towards the lowest part of the circuit, turn 5, and Häkkinen has stopped. Villeneuve has stopped. Coulthard has got to come in. I'm going to be very interested to see when David Coulthard comes in.
He's in this lap. We think he's in this lap, Murray. David Coulthard at the end of the 31st lap, we think will be making a pit stop. Watching out for him. Obviously, we're not seeing him on the screen at the moment. We're still watching that battle between Magnussen, Hill and Frentzen. The Williams mechanics are in the pit lane too, so Frentzen, I'm sure, will be in at the end of this lap.
Over the line goes Villeneuve, over the line goes Barrichello, still 3rd and 4th. We're riding with the Williams now. That's the Stewart ahead.
There's Frentzen into the pit lane. They've been practicing that all weekend. It's very slippery on the exit there. Now look for the white line, down to 120 k's and into the garage. Too easy to lock your wheels there because it's like a paving stones there, so you have to be very careful in the last couple of meters. You don't want your wheel gun men. You saw him just put it into first. The back wheel moves slightly. You don't want to frighten your wheel gun men so that they're on the defensive when you arrive. You want them following your wheel nut in, and that's what gives you the quick stop, and a good stop there by the Williams team.
And Heinz-Harald Frentzen exits the pit lane behind Jean Alesi, who has moved up into 8th position, so Frentzen is in 9th position. James Allen.
Well, Murray, my calculations, I've looked at it, including the flow rates. I don't think that Villeneuve was stationary for long enough to do this on a 1 stop. I think Ron Dennis was planning on keeping Coulthard out for 1, but he's changed his plans. He's going to try and get him out now in front of Villeneuve. That's exactly what he's doing, 4.9 seconds. So Coulthard will be in front of Villeneuve, Häkkinen at the front.
Well, I'm looking at, as you watch, Coulthard exiting the pit lane, look down, and there in the background is Jacques Villeneuve. It happened exactly as you said, James Allen. They're on lap 32 now. Here is the McLaren coming towards us. There in the background is Jacques Villeneuve. And so now all the top three men have stopped. Coulthard has stopped, Häkkinen has stopped, Villeneuve has stopped, and it is Coulthard in the lead, Häkkinen who is second, Villeneuve who is in third position, Barrichello who is fourth has yet to come in. This is Jacques Villeneuve, third place, Magnussen is fifth and has got to come in, so is Hill sixth, Diniz seventh, Alesi who is eighth has come in, so we can expect him to move up.
Yeah, but I think when it all shakes out, Häkkinen is leading the race. Coulthard after Coulthard stopped, so it'll be Häkkinen, Coulthard, Villeneuve. Remember, Coulthard was ahead of Villeneuve anyway before the stop procedure, so it's remained very much status quo, just that they appear to have given David a slightly more healthy lead over Villeneuve. It'll all shake out at the end of this lap when they cross the start-finish line where the computer beam is for the first time, all having rejoined the race. So it's really all about strategy now to the end, and they're going to be very much reacting to each other's pit stops, as we've already seen from Ron Dennis.
Through the season, and since 1993 for that matter, to have got to where they are now, to be commanding the Williams as much as they are.
Well, without any doubt, and it's interesting to see on the McLarens, the new front wing does look remarkably like a Williams front wing. I remember that Adrian Newey, the Williams aerodynamicist for many years, has moved over to this McLaren team, but there's a lot of skill and quality and depth at McLaren, has been there for a long time, and this kind of pace has been, this kind of momentum has been showing now for some time, and a stunning lap time now from Heinz Harald Frentzen Murray on a 1:18.8. He's got his fresh tyres on, got some space in front of him, and he's obviously pretty angry inside that car because that is an amazing lap time.
Lap 33, the top three have stopped, and as Martin rightly pointed out, we now know that Mika Häkkinen is back in the lead, 12 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who is 4.5 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. There is Heinz Harald Frentzen, the fastest man on the track. He's in 11th place, but 4th behind Villeneuve, and 5th behind Villeneuve are Barrichello and Magnussen. They're having a long, long stint out. They're on lap 34 at the present moment, and neither of them have been in, so it looks as though they're going to make it a one-stop strategy, which is the exact reverse of what they did in Austria last Sunday, which cost them a lot of places. Mika Häkkinen crosses the line to start his 35th lap out of 67 at the Nürburgring. Look back and you'll see David Coulthard with the red flashes on the front wing. He is in second place. Look further back behind Mika Salo's white Tyrrell with the red nose flashes, and you see the blue Williams of Jacques Villeneuve. Now, Villeneuve is obviously not coasting, to put it very mildly indeed. He's on 4 World Championship points at the moment, and therefore his effective lead over Michael Schumacher, who retired right at the beginning of the race in the World Championship, is now 3 points. But he will want to increase it. He will want to increase it by catching and getting past Coulthard. As you watch the battle between Damon Hill in the Arrows there, he is in 6th position, and Jan Magnussen in the Stewart Ford, who is ahead of him on 2 World Championship points in 5th place.
Plenty of power on there for Magnussen, getting a little bit out of shape. He's getting ragged. Damon is very much homing in on him, but it's not a clear-cut overtaking place here for those two cars because they're very, very much the same speed. They're on the same tyres. Those Bridgestones have seemed a bit hard all weekend, and that's gave them all a problem in qualifying, but as we now see, they're still on their original set of tyres they started this race with, and they're holding up very, very well. So that one-stop strategy is going to put these Bridgestone runners into the second half of the points this afternoon without any doubt. But the fastest 2 cars on the track right now are Frentzen again, back there in 11th, having had the starting problem, and Villeneuve in 3rd place. Villeneuve homing in on, he obviously passed the Tyrrell on that lap actually, so homing in on Coulthard, but still 5 seconds behind.
So as you watch Magnussen and Hill battling for 5th position, followed by Diniz, and behind Diniz is Lacey and Panis. Here are the top 10 on lap 36 out of 67. Häkkinen and Coulthard way ahead of Villeneuve 3rd, Barrichello, and here's Hill challenging.
No, he lifted off early actually. I think he was going to have a stab and then decided to bring the car back online and line it up properly for the turn-in. Realised he was too far behind.
You've got to take your hat off to Jan Magnussen, as you rightly pointed out. This is his first season of Grand Prix racing, except for one race for McLaren a couple of years ago, and he's staying ahead of the reigning world champion Damon Hill. Now, the interesting thing is that the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th men are all on these Bridgestone tyres we've been talking about, and they've all yet to stop.
Yes, I think that the Arrows boys, yes, they're out in the pit lane, they're getting ready. Obviously, Damon is faster than Magnussen. James is down in the pits with some more news.
Well, the Stewart's looking pretty good, but unfortunately...
Well, you're watching Hill and the Arrows with its Yamaha V10 engine, and we wait to hear what engine the TWR Arrows team will be using next year. Has certainly not got the legs of the Ford V10 in Magnussen's Stewart. Into the pits comes Damon Hill. Barrichello's got some sort of a hydraulic problem apparently. He's still running in 4th position, but the gap between himself and Jacques Villeneuve is now up to 7 seconds. As Hill comes in, stops the Arrows. He was in 6th position, 5th. Diniz goes through, passes him up into 6th place. The Brazilian is now in the points, and Alesi has gone through.
Oh, he stalled the engine.
It.
Oh no, Damon, how did you do that? He had a lot of revs on. It seems as if the clutch took up very early on him and the engine's gone down. They've got to find neutral now. They can't start it up. They lift the back wheels off the ground. They may be able to... Yes, they're turning the rear wheels. Look, they're turning the engine and the gearbox and the rear wheels, and very rarely does a Formula One car start. They've just got the engine running, and he's lost 15, 20 seconds.
Well, we didn't see the time, unfortunately, but that was a dreadful mistake of Damon Hill's, which has cost him an enormous amount of time. He's been lapped, in fact, because there is David Coulthard going through, in 2nd position, and Villeneuve going through. Damon Hill has dropped right back. Only 2 people had been lapped previously, Salo and Verstappen in the V8 powered Tyrrells. So that has done Damon Hill an enormous amount of harm. And he was saying just before the race, well, you heard him on the grid, saying that 2nd place in Hungary wasn't enough. Before he went to the Jordan team, he wanted to give Arrows a victory. Well, it doesn't look as though he's going to give Arrows a victory here as we watch Jacques Villeneuve on lap 38 out of 67, still pursuing David Coulthard. Now, I was saying earlier on that Villeneuve is on those 4 World Championship points for 3rd position at the present moment. He's not going to be content with that. He would like to do much better by catching and passing Coulthard and Häkkinen, but I can't see that he's got a prayer of doing so unless one of them has trouble.
He's driving the wheels off that guy. You saw him coming out there of the fast right-hander and up on the dirt. No harm done there, but that's the kind of pace he's trying to put on. And we saw David Coulthard 30 seconds ago locking his wheels into it. It's important, these points, for David. He's in a fight with Frentzen for 3rd in the World Championship. And make no mistake, if Williams go home from this race, or if Villeneuve goes home from this race with just a 3-point advantage on Michael Schumacher, they're going to be very unhappy. With Schumacher out of the race, they're going to feel another wasted opportunity, I can assure you.
Jolly good point, Martin. And Villeneuve is, as I said earlier on, just not making any impression at all. Now, but in the pit lane, we've got Ralf Schumacher, and facing him, Louise Goodman.
What happened?
Well, nothing special. I mean, it was a normal start incident. I had a very good start. The fear of, and even my teammate missed the start, so we all braked a bit late in the first corner, and then there was not enough space for everybody, so that happens, really.
So did you go off on your own, or did somebody push you off?
Yeah, no, I got hit by Giancarlo, but, well, not on purpose. He just braked a bit too late, you know, and that was the reason. So I jumped up and I hit Michael as well, and then we all were off.
Nothing special, he says, Martin. I would have thought it was pretty special, actually. He's out, his teammate's out, and his brother's out. That's pretty important.
Well, I wouldn't have thought it comes too much more special than that, but I somehow knew it wouldn't have been his fault, didn't you?
Yep, it never is. It never is. It's always the other guys. And we're on lap 40 now, out of 67. Hakkinen has got a massive lead. I've said this sort of thing before, and the massive lead has disappeared. But I have to say now that he's on his way, certainly, to his first victory. I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
You can't say that, Murray. Remember that Porsche race we were watching this morning? You said that guy's got it made. Look, car 45. The next lap, his rear wheel fell off. So don't say anything about Mika Hakkinen,
well,
please.
We all make mistakes, Martin. Lap 40, Hakkinen 13 seconds ahead of Coulthard, 6 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, 31 seconds ahead of the magnificent Jan Magnussen. No, it's Rubens Barrichello now, as into the pits comes Pedro Diniz from 8th position. But mark those stewards again. They're 4th and 5th, and they've both stopped. There's no question of them having an advantage now, because they're going to have to come in. They have come in.
Well, here's an important moment. Can Diniz get down the pit lane before Magnussen? Clearly not. Get in the fast lane, Jan. Otherwise, he's going to pass you. He's going to pass you anyway. Wake up. Well done, Pedro. He's thinking on his feet, and that's a great move from Pedro. That's going to score him some points if his car gets to the end of the race. That moment of having his head into gear.
And through comes Hakkinen to lap Magnussen, who's taking a long time to get up to racing speed. He was clearly rattled. There's inexperience there.
Well, maybe I've done him a disservice, actually, because clearly he's not able to... he's either got a throttle problem there, or he's unable to move up the gearbox.
I can't believe that the unfortunate Jan Magnussen, who's had such terrible luck this season, having been in the points in Austria and up to 4th position in this race, a superb achievement, is going to have trouble again. Well, I can believe it, actually, but I just hope it isn't true.
Well, it is true, because I don't think Magnussen's going to be going much further. He's really half speed there now, as David Coulthard, second-place man, comes up behind him. Coulthard has now managed to pull out a 6.5-second lead to Villeneuve in 3rd place, and we see Panis coming in for his first pit stop since his bad accident in Montreal, and I think he's hurting a bit in that car. It's been a fairly lackluster performance through the race by Olivier, and well, having seen him walk this morning, I'm not surprised.
No, I thought he looked not at all well, actually, and I'm no physician or medical man, but I really do wonder whether he hasn't come back too soon. He came in from 8th in the race. He's rejoined. He's about to be gobbled up by Mika Hakkinen in the Arrows, in the McLaren behind him, as Pedro Diniz in the Arrows, having benefited from his opportunistic move, keeps on the run, and in comes the Morbidelli Sauber Petronas for his pit stop. It's his 2nd pit stop. Fontana, who was one of the Sauber drivers earlier on this year, kept on coming into the pits, thinking he got a problem. He hasn't. I'm wondering what's happened to Morbidelli. Rear wheels spinning.
Yes, they had to start it up in gear again, but I suspect he stalled it. But you can see Magnussen there retiring from the race as the Tyrrell comes in for a pit stop. They're pushing Magnussen back into the pit garage. That's a shame for him.
Well, I know a lot of people will be saying, give him the drive next year, Jackie Stewart, because it's not his fault. And he's driven a super race here at the Nürburgring in the Luxembourg Grand Prix, as he did in the Austrian Grand Prix. We're on lap 42. Hakkinen is leading Coulthard by 12.6 seconds. Villeneuve is 6 seconds behind Coulthard in 3rd position. Barrichello in the Stewart is 4th. Alesi is 5th. Gerhard Berger is in 6th position.
Because there's no other use for it, as David pulls over off the racing line. Well, good news for Villeneuve and his World Championship aspirations. Bad news for David Coulthard in his personal battle for 3rd place in the championship. And, well, there's still 25 laps to go, and Mika Hakkinen is running the same engine.
Exactly. One has to say, if it's happened to one Mercedes engine, it could happen to the other. And here is the other.
Well, Jonesy, what a disappointment for David Coulthard, but Hakkinen now, I mean, he's hard to be in his mouth.
Well, exactly. I mean, maybe it's Coulthard's, turn to have a bit of bad luck and Hakkinen's turn to have a bit of good luck. I certainly hope so, but it's done Villeneuve no harm in the championship, that's for sure.
Exactly. Back to Murray and Martin.
Leading, but Villeneuve has moved up into second position.
Has Hakkinen got a problem with this car? Because, yes, he has. Hakkinen is out of the race.
Oh, this is almost unbelievable. Out goes Coulthard and Norbert Haug and Mr. Huppert, who is the head man of Mercedes, on the pit lane there, plunged into despair in front of their home countrymen at the Nürburgring, Germany's Grand Prix circuit. Is both of them out of the race. David Coulthard goes out with an exploded engine, and then on the very next lap, out goes Mika Hakkinen.
We apologise for that break in commentary, some problems there coming in from overseas, but...
You can't believe it, can you?
I mean, this has been amazing. I mean, this did happen in qualifying. There were a lot of engines go, but it's amazing how they're going in pairs.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, you can understand one or two going at the odd time, but we've had two McLarens, the two Stewarts. I mean, they're just going out in pairs. But, I mean, look at this guy now. He's now on 10 points as opposed to 4.
Well, you and I were just talking whilst we were watching the race by saying yet again Williams hadn't taken advantage of the fact that Ferrari and Schumacher in particular were having problems. I mean, now it's just been handed to him on a plate.
Well, if he can win the race now, he has literally got a race and a point up his sleeve with 2 races to go after this. So he's going to be looking very strong.
All right, we've got commentary back, so we'll go back to Murray Walker and Martin Brundle.
Second place, there he is in his pit stop. Gerhard Berger is in third position, or was, and will now have moved up into second place. Everything is coming together for Williams and for Benetton, because Heinz-Harald Frentzen is up into fourth place. So just let's recap. Out has gone David Coulthard with a blown engine. Out has gone Mika Hakkinen with a blown engine. Out has gone Rubens Barrichello with a blown engine. These engines are being developed so much these days because the performance of the cars is so close that they're right on the edge and go, and they went in Austria, they're going here in Germany. Here is the new race leader, Jacques Villeneuve, looking good for 10 World Championship points for the second race in succession. And Michael Schumacher is watching this and will be plunged into the depths of despair. He's seeing his World Championship lead drop from 1 point to go down to second place, 9 points behind Villeneuve. If Villeneuve wins, he's on lap 46. And the race order is Villeneuve leading, and he can, I won't say he can push the Williams home, but he's got a 37-second lead over Lacey as Berger comes in, and that lead will be increased after Lacey's stop. Heinz-Harald Frentzen now moves up into second position thanks to the pit stops of the 2 Benetton cars. Well, are we going to see a Williams 1-2 here? I think we are. We've had 5 of them already this season. This could well be the 6th. And there's an enormous gap between Jacques Villeneuve and Heinz-Harald Frentzen on lap 46. The Nürburgring is taking its toll.
We have 4 Renault engine cars in the first 4 places. The Renault standing up well. Obviously, this is their last season in Formula One, and well, their engine has been supreme for so long. Damon Hill has thrown away almost certain podium position, I think, with that stall in the pits. It may not have been his fault. Maybe Rubens Barrichello did not have an engine failure. Remember, it was radioed in from the ITV pit crew that he did have a hydraulic problem. David Coulthard, well, I'm flying home with him tonight. That's not going to be a happy journey because He wanted those points today, and a McLaren 1-2 here in front of the Mercedes hierarchy in Germany, even if it is for the Luxembourg Grand Prix, would have been something special. Poor old Mika Häkkinen, what can you say for the guy? So here we are, Villeneuve. He has reversed into a few wins this year. Remember Hungary, remember Silverstone. I thought his performance in Austria was absolutely stunning, but here once again he's kept his head and the race has come back to him so far, but it's not all over yet.
Villeneuve, having won in Brazil and Argentina and Spain and Britain and Hungary and Austria last Sunday, has got yet another, the 7th victory of the season. But we've got news from James Allen in the pit lane. What is it, James?
Just to tidy things up a little, Murray, confirmed to you it was a hydraulic failure on Rubens Barrichello's Stewart, which actually killed the throttle, and that's why he retired. Shortly before that, Jan Magnussen retired. Problem there was a drive shaft failure.
In which case, if I suggested that their engines went, and I did suggest that their engines are gone, I humbly apologise to Ford and Cosworth and everybody associated with them.
Villeneuve giving it plenty across the curbs. I wouldn't be doing too much of that. Look at the front wing flaps bouncing around. Imagine what the suspension is going through. It rattles the fillings in your teeth as you go over those sort of sawtooth curbs. If I was Jacques, I'd be staying well away from those because they'll bite you.
Yeah, he doesn't need to go over them. It's easy for me to say that, but into the pit lane comes Heinz Harald Frentzen for a second stop. Now, this is lap 48. He's come in before Jacques Villeneuve. He was 38 seconds behind him when he came into the pit lane. He was 19 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi, who has stopped twice. So it's going to be a pretty close run thing. In fact, there's a Benetton going through. Now watch Frentzen on the left and watch at the right. There is the Benetton of Jean Alesi, and behind him is Gerhard Berger. So Frentzen has dropped to third. Alesi has gone up to second. Berger is still in fourth position, and there they are. Alesi, Frentzen, Berger. And as Martin has pointed out, the 4 leading cars are Renault powered. The Renault concern is pulling out of Grand Prix racing, and poor Mika Häkkinen has pulled out of the race that he so earnestly wanted to win on his birthday. What an awful present.
Well, if he was in floods of tears, I don't think anybody would begrudge him that. What has the man got to do? He's been so fast for so long, so committed, so loyal to McLaren, so dedicated to his job. Alesi there trying to make a move on what must be Verstappen, the back marker. Makes it stick now, but lost a lot of time with that. Gives Frentzen a chance to move up behind him. Frenzen's got the faster car of those 3. Dave Richards here for the first weekend that he's taking over the Benetton team, and he'll be pretty pleased with himself seeing his cars up there now in 2nd and 4th places. So a good scrap there now to the end of the race, but Villeneuve appears to have it in the bag.
Well, 5 times this year Williams have started 1st and 2nd on the grid. They've yet to finish 1st and 2nd in the race. We thought they got 2 tremendously strong drivers in Villeneuve and Frentzen, and so they have, but Villeneuve has proved in race conditions to be the stronger. Now, he's going to have to fight now, because you can see the situation on the track.
Well, Verstappen getting a bit rude there with Gerhard Berger too. So that's Villeneuve in for his 2nd and what will be his final stop. At that point, as the others just stopped the previous lap, he had a 58-second lead. So subtract whatever it takes him into the pit lane. Don't stall the engine. Nice clean stop there. No panic. And now he's just up and running to the flag, providing he has no problems. But Verstappen making a nasty move there as Berger was trying to stay in that group, chasing 2nd place.
Well, a complete stop here from entering the pit lane to leaving it takes about 28 seconds. Villeneuve was 58 seconds ahead of Alesi, so he's still going to be a comfortable half-minute ahead of the French Sicilian in the Benetton, both of whom have made 2 stops. And Jean Alesi will be much happier with this. He's had 3 second places already this season. As we were saying earlier on, there's been a lot of argument between Alesi and Eddie Irvine about who caused the accident, the collision that they had in Austria. Well, Alesi is well clear of everyone except Heinz Harald Frentzen, who's swarming all over his gearbox. And for that matter, Gerhard Berger isn't so far away. Here's the proof. Alesi coming towards us 2nd, Frentzen 3rd, with the red flashes holding the wing, front wing of the Williams. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen redeeming himself, the man who won the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, the man who was second in France, and he very much needs a second place now to improve his World Championship situation. He's third in the World Championship at the moment, but he's some 36 points behind Jacques Villeneuve, who's now effectively leading the championship after the retirement of Michael Schumacher.
The track looks a bit slick, looks a bit slippery. Surprised to see Frentzen having to lift off through that fast chicane. But normally they're pretty much pedal to the metal through there without even dreaming of lifting. So clearly, as the race is going on, the track is getting slicker and slicker, which is why they're running back down in the late 20s. And far, 1 minute 18.8, as you get a mixture of rubber on the track, a few cars blowing up, a few cars going off, bringing gravel and dust back on to the apexes, and suddenly you just can't find the bite and the grip that you once had earlier in the race.
Frentzen is in third position. There is the fourth place man, Gerhard Berger. Ahead of Frentzen, coming towards us, is Jean Alesi, and you can see what a small gap it is between the three of them.
Good scrap here for fifth place, 2 points at the moment for Diniz, 1 point for Panis there. Panis looking fairly menacing. Pedro having driven a good solid race. Oh, you won't get through there, Olivier, but good try anyway. And Pedro there hanging on for what would be his first 2 points of the season. A good drive from him after a reasonably lacklustre weekend so far, but he's kept it all together in the race, stayed out of trouble, and so has Panis for that matter.
Yeah, race order, lap 52 out of 67. Villeneuve's got the race in his pocket if he just keeps going. He's 33 seconds ahead of this battle between Alesi, Frentzen and Berger for second place. Pedro Diniz in fifth position. There he is ahead of us because we're on the Prost of returnee Olivier Panis, sixth position.
Panis has a lot more straight line speed. Let's watch him home in now on the arrows towards the end of this straight, and then see what he can do under braking. Yes, he's much faster, isn't he? I don't think it's going to be too long before Panis takes over that fifth place. Now he can smell those points. Berger's another 8.5 seconds in front of him. I don't think he's going to be bothering him too much between now and the end of the race, but 2 points on his return would be something quite special for Olivier, and I think he's going to take that anytime soon.
Yeah, and it would be a wonderful return to Grand Prix racing present for Olivier Panis and the Prost team. Jarno Trulli stood in for him superbly and led so well in Austria until he had that gigantic engine blow-up. Shinji Nakano, Panis's teammate, is out of the race with a blown engine. Let's hope it doesn't happen to Olivier Panis as it happened to the two McLaren cars. But anyway, it's a battle for fifth and sixth places. Villeneuve out on his own. This is the 52nd lap as you watch Berger chasing Frentzen, who is chasing Alesi, and Jean Alesi with a clear track in front of him. No hint of a collision imminent here. And the gap between Alesi and Frentzen you can see for yourself. We're with the Williams Renault now into the chicane to complete the lap by going round the right-hander. They're approaching now. Turn 13, Alesi smokes his right front tyre. Won't have stopped it enough to risk flat spotting it there. Into another lap, and it's going to be a tremendous battle for second position right to the end of the race.
Look at those tyres glistening. They're working well, the Goodyears, this weekend. They took all of the front slots to the first 8 on the grid. Look at them glistening. That's how you like to see it. You can see your front tyres, obviously, from the cockpit, and that's the kind of sheen you like to see on them. You know, they're really sticky, really gripping, without danger of going off. And once again, Panis, the camera angle slightly deceptive there. Panis, well, he's not really been able to get himself in a position yet to push Pedro Diniz into a mistake, but good effort there from those two. But Villeneuve over half a minute in the lead.
Watch the battle as out of the race goes the Tyrrell, and it's the Tyrrell of Jos Verstappen. He was in 11th position. That means there's only 10 runners left, and the retirees, as you ride with Heinz-Harald Frentzen sandwiched between the two Benettons. Here are the top 10, and you're watching race leader Villeneuve. He's 31 seconds ahead of Alesi, Frentzen and Berger, who are very, very close to each other. Diniz is in 5th position with Panis right behind him. That's the top 6. Johnny Herbert is in 7th position. Damon Hill is in 8th position. 9th, 10th and 11th are Morbidelli, Salo and Verstappen. And the retirees are Mika Hakkinen, Rubens Barrichello, David Coulthard, Jan Magnussen, Eddie Irvine, Shinji Nakano, Michael Schumacher, Tasso Marquez, Katayama, and the 2 Jordans of Ralf Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella on the first lap. We're on lap 54 now.
Well, I'd like to know if Michael Schumacher damaged his car in the first corner. I would have thought he did, or whether it was that big curb hopping moment we saw a lap later, because if it was his own mistake, that's the second one he's made this year. Remember, he ran into Barrichello in the first corner in Argentina. Other than that, it's been a pretty flawless season, and it'll be interesting to see just where Michael's damage occurred. Maybe he went off at the chicane because he had some kind of suspension failure from the first corner accident.
Damaged it at the first accident, and finished it by going over those saw teeth at the chicane. There's a replay of Jos Verstappen sliding gracefully off the track into the gravel trap.
It takes a special effort to get into that gravel trap. I'm not quite sure how he managed that.
And that is Olivier Panis's wife, who is watching the progress of her husband, trying to get past Pedro Diniz. That's Diniz in front of us, and I must say that Pedro Diniz, I've said this in the past, and I'm not going to be at all humble about saying it again, he was a much maligned man when he drove for the 40 team. He wasn't all that much more respected when he drove for Ligier, but since he got to Arrows in particular, he's really got himself together. Is that in it? And James Allen's with Mika Hakkinen.
Mika, all our thoughts go with you. It was terrible luck. You had that race in the bag.
Yeah, it was quite, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it was definitely under control all the time. I was all the time following the pit board and just saving the tires and the engine and everything more or less, but it didn't help too much this time.
What have you got to do to buy yourself some luck, eh?
I said, you know, to be best you have to pay the penalty and the price. This is it, you know. McLaren, Mercedes want to be best, so it's always we can expect some failures. Like I want to be the best, and I make a mistake sometimes, and I have to pay the penalty. And it's easy. It's not easy to take it, but you get nothing free, you know.
You're a brave man. Thanks.
You're a true gent too, Mika Hakkinen. Now, Jacques Villeneuve out there alone. Lacey, Frentzen, Berger, Diniz, Panis is the order.
Don't you sometimes wish he'd come back in and get the engine builder by the throat and really get very, very upset about it instead of so cool?
Welcome back. Well, it's certainly been another eventful Formula One race, hasn't it? After 56 laps now, the run to the flag for Villeneuve. Lacey, Frentzen, what a drive from him. Wow, he's really come through the pack to get there. Berger, Diniz, and also Panis there scoring some points too, so that's good to see. All right, let's go back to Murray.
Just trying to worry him now. It wasn't a serious overtaking manoeuvre, but Pedro has just upped his game all year long. Really been on Damon's pace, the reigning world champion's pace, pretty much through the second half of the season. And now you see him under pressure from a guy with a stronger engine and on the same tyres with a much stronger reputation. And look, he's holding him off well, albeit seriously under pressure.
Yeah, and Panis has got a heck of a lot more experience too. Well, Diniz has been accused of being a rich kid in the past, and he is a rich kid, but he's also getting to be a very talented racing driver. And look at Johnny Herbert in the background. Johnny Herbert in 7th position in the Sauber Petronas is catching Panis, who is trying to get past Diniz, and Herbert's going to be right under the rear wing of the Ligier soon. Race order, lap 57, Villeneuve, Lacey, Frentzen. Lacey is lapping faster than Villeneuve, and he's got the gap down to 27 seconds, but there's only 11 laps left, including the one they're on. Villeneuve's only got to keep going to win. Only 10 laps left now. Lap 58 out of 67. There is the race leader, Jacques Villeneuve, on his way to his 7th Grand Prix victory of the year, and another 10 World Championship points to wrest the lead of the championship from Michael Schumacher, followed by Alesi and Frentzen. Here is the battle. Alesi, that's Frentzen, there is Gerhard Berger, and there's a mighty, mighty battle going on behind them between Pedro Diniz in the Arrows Yamaha and Olivier Panis, returning to Grand Prix racing after breaking both his legs in the Canadian Grand Prix for 5th position. And right up with Olivier Panis and Diniz in the background in the red helmet is Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Petronas, and he's in 7th place. Damon Hill is 8th, Morbidelli is 9th, Salo is 10th. There are only 10 runners left in the Luxembourg Grand Prix, with 10 laps to go, including this one. Out of the 22 who started, it's proved to be very much a car breaker, including the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen that was leading, the McLaren of David Coulthard that had been leading, and of course others as well.
Panis keeps having a feint up the inside there, but Diniz is just not buying it, is he? And keeping his head now, just driving the road ahead. So Panis is going to have to think of something a bit special, because Diniz is not going to give in quite as easily as he was expecting. And he's much, much better under braking. So if he once gets up alongside him or underneath his rear wing, he's going to sail past him into a braking area. But right now, Pedro's not giving him that pleasure.
Well, nobody in the first 4 is making any real impression on anyone else, because there are the 2nd, 3rd and 4th, Jean Alesi, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Gerhard Berger, 2 Benetton sandwiching the Williams. They are about 1.5 seconds away from each other, and Jean Alesi is 26 seconds behind Jacques Villeneuve, who yet again has got it made. In Martin's own delightful terminology, he's reversed into this victory, but a win is a win, however you get it. 10 points are 10 points, however you get them. And Jacques Villeneuve will be going to the next Grand Prix in Japan on October the 12th, with a 9-point lead over Michael Schumacher if he finishes first, Jacques Villeneuve. And although the championship will be a long way from being settled, because there will be 20 World Championship points at stake over the last 2 races in Japan and at Jerez in Spain, it's going to look very, very strong indeed for Jacques Villeneuve. And of course, Williams are going to be pulling away massively from Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. They're currently 12 points ahead, and they're building up 14 points in this race, a win for Villeneuve and a 3rd position for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And as far as Ferrari are concerned, it's a no-points race. Michael Schumacher out of the race right at the very, very beginning, when he had a collision involving his brother Ralph and Giancarlo Fisichella, and Eddie Irvine retired a long, long time ago. So no points for Maranello. They've got to go home, lick the wounds, do the work, get themselves right for Japan, which should actually be a very, very strong Williams circuit rather than a Ferrari track. We're on lap 60 now, and here is race leader Jacques Villeneuve going into his 61st lap out of 67. 2.8 miles long each lap, the fastest lap we've had so far. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 1:18.8, which is some 2.5 seconds faster than Damon Hill's lap record of 1996.
Yes, it's even faster than last year's pole, just by a fraction. Do you remember when the 2 McLarens dropped out of the race? We saw Villeneuve going over the start-finish line, waving at his pit crew as much to say, well, what do you think about that, guys? This is too good to be true, but we'll take it, eh?
What do you think about this, then, too? Olivier Panis, where with the Prost now, with the Mugen engine, it's his return to Grand Prix racing. Olivier, the board says P6, and the gap between you and Pedro Diniz is 0.7 of a second. Now, he certainly won't need telling that, because he can see him in front. But in his mirrors, he can see Johnny Herbert with the red and white helmet getting inching
really having to look after the back end of his car as he gets on the throttle, snaking away, but he's doing a really good job of that. Imagine, look how late Panis can brake. Remember, he broke both of his legs. Imagine how much that's hurting him right at the moment. But he's still able somehow to put this 70 bar of pressure that we put into the... Now, he's close now. Watch out, Pedro, because he might just have a go up the inside here. And he's not going to get through there. Still, Pedro still kept his head. And every time Olivier does that, it gives Johnny Herbert another small bite at the back of him. So it's an enormous amount of energy you put into that brake pedal, Murray, to get those brakes up to about 750 centigrade to give you this stopping ability of a Formula 1 car.
Yeah, and the net beneficiary of all this might well be Johnny Herbert, because he's just right behind Olivier Panis. And if Diniz gets something wrong and Panis got involved with it by having to back off, then Johnny Herbert could do what Nigel Mansell did to Ayrton Senna in the Hungarian Grand Prix and get past. But we're on lap 62 now, and coming towards us, Pedro Diniz, Olivier Panis, Johnny Herbert, and they are respectively 5th, 6th and 7th. The battle for second position continues to rage at the front between Alesi, Frentzen and Berger. So we've got in the lead a Williams-Renault, in the second place a Benetton-Renault, in the third place a Williams-Renault, and in the fourth place a Benetton-Renault. Renault are going out of racing at the end of this season. They're going to finish on a wonderful high note in Germany, their last race in Germany, if things stay as they are, because Jacques Villeneuve is now on his 63rd lap out of 67. That is him. And Renault look like getting a first, second, third and fourth. They've had a lot of firsts and second, a good few first, second and thirds, but not 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is Frentzen. You see, John Alesi is staving off the German. We've got a French-Canadian in the lead. We've got a French-Sicilian in second place, a German in third position, an Austrian in fourth place, a Brazilian in fifth place, and a Frenchman in sixth place. An Englishman, Johnny Herbert, an Englishman, Damon Hill, 7th and 8th ahead of Italian Morbidelli, and the Finnish driver, Mika Salo, lap 63.
Well, as we see this continuing scrap for 5th place, if Villeneuve wins in Japan, then he will win the championship. He's now in a position, providing he just gets to the end of this race, of course, he will be in a position to take that World Championship. And remember, he did the Japanese Formula 3000 Championship for a couple of years and knows Suzuka like the back of his hand. But Panis, once again, locking his brakes, got a lot of front bias. We run something like 58 or 59% of the pedal energy goes into the front brakes to slow the cars down, and looks like Olivier's got even more than that, because he's very, very often locking his brakes. Maybe he's not quite got the control on the brake pedal he would ideally have, given his injury problems. But look at Villeneuve, he's not going anywhere near the side of the racetrack now. He's just swanning along, taking it very easy. You could hear him applying the power gently. Different story here. These two are really going for it. Gerhard suddenly had his late race wake-up call as normal and started to home in on the back of Frentzen, just 2.5 seconds behind. Damon Hill's taking a lot of time out of Johnny Herbert. He's back in 8th place, but he could just join the back of that Diniz, Panis, Herbert fight. You can see Damon in the background now. He may just join that just towards the end of the race.
And we're on lap 64 out of 67. 3 to go at the end of this one. Can Panis get ahead of Diniz? Can Herbert get ahead of Panis? Can Damon Hill catch Johnny Herbert? Never mind, get past him. Can Alesi stave off Frentzen? Can Frentzen stave off Berger? There are all sorts of questions still to be answered in the few remaining laps, but one of them, I think, is not going to be who wins the Luxembourg Grand Prix, because now Jacques Villeneuve, coming towards us, is on his 65th lap. Just 3 laps to go, including this one. It's not a good day for Germany, because they had obviously hoped for one of the 2 McLaren cars with their Mercedes engines to win, and they showed so many strong signs of doing so, with Mika Häkkinen starting in pole position and then leading the race for so long. But now, that's the top hope of Germany, the second of these 2 cars, because Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in third position behind Jean Alesi, ahead of Austrian. Here he is, Gerhard Berger, and Johnny Herbert has dropped back a bit. We rejoin now the Olivier Panis car, still trying to get Petra Diniz, who's up behind Mika Salo, going through to lap him, and this could be Panis's opportunity or Johnny Herbert's opportunity as they come out of turn 2, dropping down towards the hairpin. Diniz goes past Salo, Panis goes past, and Johnny Herbert goes past. Lap 65.
Well, Salo will have impressed his new boss, Tom Walkinshaw, by letting Diniz cleanly through there in the Arrows. Salo driving with Arrows next year, of course. And well done, Mika, because that's allowed that good fight to continue.
And here he is. Jacques Villeneuve is on his penultimate lap. 65 laps completed. He's on lap 66, a contented and happy Williams garage. The mechanics know that they've done all their work. There's nothing they can do further to help Jacques Villeneuve. He's just got to bring the Williams Renault home, and he's just got one lap to go at the end of this one. But the battle still continues for second, third and fourth places. That's Gerhard Berger, fourth position. Now, is the Austrian going to retire from racing at the end of this year? We don't know. All the good drives have gone, and it seems very unlikely that he's going to take anything else. There's a rumour that he's going to be test driving for BMW as they develop their new Formula One engine for the Williams team, which will be used in a couple of years' time. But Diniz, Panis and Herbert continue the battle. 5th, 6th, 7th, and again Olivier Panis is looking for the position, and again Damon Hill is closing up in the background. You can just see the arrows flying along. This is lap 66.
Well, if Damon did make a mistake on that pit stop, he's definitely thrown away a lot of good points. I can see him homing in on these three, but there's no time to pass any of them. So unless they all trip over each other in the last lap, Damon's going to be out of the points on this occasion. But that's not the case for this man. 10 points now, Murray. This is the last lap of the race. 10 points for the World Championship. He goes to Japan. He's able to go to Japan very much on the defensive. He's able to chill out, relax. Michael Schumacher's now got all the work to do for the World Championship.
Indeed he has. He started here in Germany 1 point ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, and the race is going to finish very badly indeed for him. 9 points behind Jacques Villeneuve, second in the championship that he had led ever since the French Grand Prix. So Michael Schumacher's got it all to do. Into the last lap go Diniz, Panis and Herbert. We're on lap 67 out of 67, and Villeneuve is going to win this race provided he just keeps going. Alesi is going to finish second unless Frentzen can do something absolutely incredible in the closing yards of the last lap, which Jacques Villeneuve is on now. He turns in, comes into the last corner, and Jacques Villeneuve crosses the finishing line to general acclaim to win his 7th Grand Prix of the year and move back into the lead of the World Championship. Now, who is going to be second? Is Alesi going to be able to keep off Frentzen?
I often think it'd be a laugh to go down the pit lane as the winner. Yes, Alesi comes over the line second, Frentzen third, Berger fourth. Who's going to take that 5th position? They're some way behind. They're 25 seconds behind Berger, but you can still win the race in the pit lane because it's still effectively crossing the start-finish line. That would surprise a few people if you went behind them.
Oh, here we are with
Panis.
Panis. Sorry to interrupt you, Martin. We're with Panis. Pedro Diniz is still ahead, and it looks as though he's going to stay ahead after a quite superb drive. The best of his Grand Prix career. Pedro Diniz takes 2 World Championship points for Arrows, and Panis takes 1 World Championship point for the Prost team on his return to Grand Prix racing after a fine, determined, thrusting drive. Finishes just ahead of Johnny Herbert, 7th, Damon Hill in 8th position. And as Morbidelli and Salo have already been lapped, they are 9th and 10th. And so...
And the Canadian national anthem there, ringing strong and proud. Pretty lucky one, though. I think, obviously, a lot of luck in motorsport, and it's got to go your way. But as we've said so many times, they haven't been able to take advantage of Ferrari's performances when they've gone bad. They were lucky tonight.
They were. They still couldn't take advantage, actual raw speed-wise. But, you know, when you're on a roll, you're on a roll. When the luck's going your way, it's going your way. It certainly went Villeneuve's way tonight. He's now, I correct myself, I said he was a race and a point in front. In actual fact, he's only 9 points in front. So it's really going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, you talk about luck, though. I mean, you make your own luck, too. You've got to put yourself in the position to be able to capitalise on luck.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, he was there to take advantage of the two McLarens breaking down. But, gee, weren't they flying?
Certainly were. Very, very fast. All right, let's have a look at the champagne and the celebrations. There we go, plenty of spray, and I know our den mother, Gabby, she'll be so pleased. Gabby looks after us here at Wide World of Sports, flies AJ all around the place, and she's a big Jacques fan.
Well, there you are. Villeneuve from Alesi, Frentzen, Berger. Good result for Pedro Diniz, and Olivier Panis in one championship point with his first Grand Prix after his injury. Villeneuve now takes over the lead in the championship from Schumacher. Frentzen's in third, Alesi fourth, Coulthard fifth, and Berger still in sixth position. Now, the championship points, as far as the manufacturers are concerned, Williams increases their lead from 112 over Ferrari 86, Bennett in third, McLaren fourth, Jordan fifth, and Prost in sixth.
Yeah, certainly amazing how a season can turn around. I mean, going into Monza, Ferrari leading both divisions, and now just their world's fallen apart since the Italian Grand Prix.
Well, that really surprised me because they were reliable, they were strong, and particularly when we were over there, they were going off to Monza thinking that they were going to win it. You know, and I must admit I was thinking along those lines as well. But you're right, from Monza, it's just all turned wrong for them.
Certainly has. All right, let's have a listen to what the drivers have to say. A few surprised people, I would think.
Well, Jacques, well done on your 7th victory this season. Luck seemed to be on your side a little bit today.
Yeah, it was working well today. I was a little bit worried because we banged wheel with Heinz into the first braking. I think he had someone on his outside also. And I thought that I'd bent something because it hit pretty hard, but then the car was running fine, except for the two McLarens were flying. I mean, they had more fuel than us, and they were really, really fast on this track. So if they hadn't blown up, there's no way we could have beaten them.
How quickly were you aware that Michael Schumacher had dropped out?
Almost right away. The team told me, and then out of the hairpin there's a big screen, and you can watch the race every time you go there, so I could see that he had stopped in the pits.
If the McLarens had stayed in, would you have been able to catch them, do you think, or would you have been happy to settle for third?
Well, I wasn't happy to be third, but I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't have caught them, so I would have had to settle for third. It would have been, you know, okay for the championship, but this is definitely better.
Jacques, well done. Jean, you started 10th, so did you expect to be in the top 3 today?
Honestly, no. You know, after my second stop, I saw on the pit board P2, and I didn't believe it because before to stop I was 8th. And really, when you start in this position, and especially I had all the Bridgestone car on the front, and it was absolutely impossible to overtake. I really want to thank everybody to give me the reliability in the car to finish in these positions.
You started 10th, and you ended up quite high up after the first corner. Can you talk us through the start?
I did a very bad start, and actually it helped me a lot because I see a lot of cars flying up and smokes and dust. So I found a very small place to go, and I was 5th, I think, at the first corner, in the first lap.
Jean, well done.
Thank you.
Heinz Harald, your 4th third position in a row. You've contributed a lot towards the Williams Constructors' Championship at the moment. Did it all go planned today?
Well, not really. I mean, we banged wheels together at the start. It was pretty tight, and I knocked with my ankle. I knocked the ignition off and everything off, and I was surprised what happened then. Until I realized that the ignition was switched off, I was already 14th or 15th. So it was pretty disappointing at that stage. I mean, I had many guys in front of us, and we were fighting for every tenth, and it was very difficult to overtake them. Step by step, it was running fine. It was a good maneuver with Gerhard Berger. We were trying to go into the pits, and then Berger changed his plan, went into the pits and well, and then we stayed out. And I think that was the reason I managed to overtake Gerhard. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult. But I feel also very happy for Renault because we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 finish. And that's a great day for Renault, especially because they are quitting Formula 1 next year.
Thanks very much, Heinz-Harald. Jacques, we go to Suzuka. You're 9 points ahead now, and Williams are 26 points ahead. What are your thoughts on the Japanese circuit?
Well, my thoughts are pretty good. It's a great track, and I love driving there. It should suit our car pretty well, so we should be competitive there. And all we need to do now is 1 point more than Michael, as we have more victories than him to win the championship. So that's what will be important, to qualify well and then to just stay in front of Michael.
Thanks very much, Jacques.